Okay, so today we are going to learn the basics of how to solve linear equations in algebra. So, the first thing we need to understand about is like terms. So, like terms are important to understand because any like terms, we should know that we can add and subtract them. So, for example, I can write down some like terms below. So, any just plain whole numbers or integers such as 2, 3, 4, 5 are like terms because you can add or subtract them. You can do 2 plus 3 to get 5. You can do, for example, you can do 3 minus 1 to get 2. All of these are considered like terms. But another example of like terms, they can also include variables. So an example of a variable, a common one is x. So it's basically a placeholder for a number that we do not know yet. So typically in algebra, we are trying to solve for what number or what value is equal to x. So let's look at some different terms. So we could have 2x, for example, plus, let's say, 3x to get what will we get? So in this case, when you have like terms that include variables, um, we would add together the coefficient. So the coefficient, that is the number that's in front of the variable. So in this case, these two numbers are like terms because they have the exact same variable connected to their coefficients, which would be x. So if we add these together, we will get what 2 plus 3, that's 5, and we will add that variable. So the answer to this problem would be 5x. So let's look at something a little bit more complex. So let's think about this equation. So what if we have 2x plus 3x squared plus 3x plus 4x squared? So we have to think about, okay, what would this be equal to? So we need to find the like terms because we can only combine like terms. So I see 2 right here. We have 2x and 3x. These are like terms because what do they both share? They both share x. So that means we can add or subtract them. In this case, we'll be adding them because it's a positive 2x and a positive 3x. So 2 plus 3 equals 5. We'll get 5x. Okay, what else? So we also have the 3x squared and the 4x squared. So now we have x squared. So these are also like terms because the x squared, the variable, is the same. So we can add together the 3 and the 4. So 3 plus 4, what does that equal? That equals 7. So we can get plus 7x squared. So that's a brief example of how to simplify like terms. So let's go ahead and erase all of this. So let's start to look at a simple linear equation where we will actually solve for x. So let's think about this equation. What if we had 4x, let's say minus 2 equals 2x plus 6? Okay, so we have this linear equation. So what we want to do is combine the like terms. So two like terms here would be the 4x and the 2x. And then the other two like terms would be the minus 2 and the plus 6 because they, are like terms. They're similar to each other. So let's start with the 4x and the 2x. So what we can do is we can subtract the 2x from both sides. So why would we want to subtract the 2x from both sides? It's typically easier to do it this way because we'll end up with positive numbers. So what is 2x minus 2x? Since those are the same, they're going to cancel out. 2x minus 2x is 0. And then 4x minus 2x, we will get 2x here. Okay, so a common question that I get, let me rewind a little bit. So sometimes students will ask, okay, well, they'll say, okay, miss, like, why Why not do the minus 4x on both sides? Yes, yes, that is true. You can do it that way, but, and you can still get the right answer. So that's perfectly fine. But this way, yeah, the 4x cancels out, but now we have a 2x minus a 4x. We're going to end up with a negative number. So we're going to actually 2 minus 4 is equal to negative 2. So we'll get negative 2x here. So I typically like to do it the other way because it's just, as we know, simpler sometimes to deal with positive numbers than negative numbers. Once again, you can solve it either way, but you typically want to find the smaller number on both sides and then subtract that one from both sides. So we're going to go back to the minus 2x, and here. So once again, those cancel out and we'll get 2x. So after you do that, you can bring everything else down. So be very careful here. So we have a 2x. We still have that minus 2. We haven't touched it. So we're just going to bring it down. Also, the equal sign stays. And then we have a positive 6. So we could just write 6. So if you want to put the positive in front of it, you can, but you don't need to. If we just write 6, we can already know that that's positive. So next we want to combine more like terms. So the minus 2 and the positive 6 are like terms. So let's think about this. So usually, like how I said, we want to pinpoint the smaller number, and that's the one that we want to add or subtract from both sides. So in this case, negative 2 is definitely smaller than positive 6. So, but when we have a negative, what we want to do is cancel this out of this side. So we want this negative 2 to cancel out to 0. So since it's a negative 2, if we add 2 to it, that will cancel out, giving us 0. So just be careful not to make the mistake of saying, oh, okay, there's a 2 there. Well, let me do minus 2, and then that cancels out. No, that doesn't cancel out. That'll give you negative 4. So you don't want to do that. Okay, so we're going to do positive 2 plus 2 on both sides of the equation. Um, so whenever we simplify that, we're going to get 2x. This cancels out, so it's 0. And then we're just going to move our equal sign there. And 6 plus 2 is equal to 8. Okay, so we're almost done. So what is the next thing that we can do? So now we have a 2 multiplied by some number x is going to give us 8, right? That's what this is saying here. 2 multiplied by x gives us 8. So maybe you can look at this and you can just say, oh, okay, I know 2 times 4 is equal to 8. So boom, I can get my answer. But sometimes it's not that simple. Sometimes we can have bigger numbers where we can't just tell by looking at it to know what the answer is. So in this case, since this is a multiplication on this side happening, we want to get the x by itself. So to get the x by itself, we got to do what? We got to get rid of this 2. So what we can do is divide the 2 by both sides. So what happens is 2 divided by 2 actually equals 1. So we're just going to get 1x by itself. And then on the other side, we're just going to do 8 divided by 2, which will give us 4. And there we go, we have our answer. So this is just an introduction of how to solve linear equations, and we will go more in depth with more complex problems in my later videos.